Okay. Going to the next slide. Okay. Right now, foundation member. Right now for Genome engagement team, and right now I'm from Chile, so I'm right now from Genome Chile too. Got application from to hacker from Chile's Handybox for accessibility, and right now from Latin American too. So this is a really interesting what I'm talking about. How can we get involved as a visual designer and we collaborate into as a visual designer a community? Okay, so we're going to understand right now what is the process right now and how fast we need to understand that. So right now we're going to talking about from 2005 when we start with our genome.org right now to genome engagement. So there is a lot of process about that, and we need to understand what we need to do. You know, obviously sometimes it's not easy to understand that. So that's why maybe the experience could be low and high right now, but we need to understand what we want to do, where I right now, and we want to do in 2 months and 5 months and 1 year. In 2 years, always have a propose what we want to do and feel about it. Obviously, we always need to learn about it. I know maybe you're from Asia and you know to understand maybe the more of practice your language. For example, my native language is Spanish, but obviously I need to practice language. I need to practice the English to start communicate. So this is when I start only in Spanish. Obvious is local American, it's a Latin American, from Chile and all that. But when you try to expand, more, that is when you need to understand more the language. So it's for step by steps where we are right now and where we are supposed no extend maybe in 5 years we want to stay there. We're going to step by steps and always learning about that. What is the great to start with open source software community? And we got everything about that. When we can learn, we can get, and we can learn about everything about that, and everything we can teach to the people. Because we are talking about not only in Latin America, we are talking about everything in the world. So it's really interesting what we want to do, what is our proposal to be with open source software community. And more interesting right now, interesting what can we do? We need support for all the peoples, wherever you are, is support. What do you want to do? What do you want to love? So it's more interesting about what do you want to do, but is what do you want to feel about it, and when you feel about it, is what do you want to do for the people, so really interested about that. So right now, the objectives of these talks is involved to the people who want to get involved into the great community. Okay, we are talking about not only when we start in Chile, when we got the Linux meeting from 2005 in right now in 2010 2011, and we will start to know to the community, and then we will start with know to the Genome Chile. So it's really interesting when we are there and we will start the low and the high, and how can we get involved, how can we get more involved, not in our local languages, get involved into the community in the world. So it's really interesting how can we get there, you know so as I said before, right now we are talking about something really interesting about is artificial intelligence. Right now it's really fast, you know but going to step by steps. Okay, so right now is how can get involved. I was talking about always. I was studying marketing, so my proposal right now for I was talking about with Caroline too, is get more videos. Understand what is the proposal. For example, we are talking right now. I'm talking about engagement team, but I was talking about what is the idea to create a short video. Maybe I'm talking about seconds, for example. Um, I got this slide when we're talking about maybe a 40 to 60 seconds, and right now we got the opportunity to create our storyboard with the artificial intelligence, we need to understand what is the proposal for that, and what we got right now is obviously is we are getting involved in everything about because we got right now everything about the open AI, but I don't really I really understand the drama right now. I don't really understand right now what is going on with the drama, but I understand what is the powerful when you create something. Right now I'm creating with my artificial intelligence with two applications, but for example, if we got using DALI and I'm using Leonardo AI, you know but I need to understand what I do this and what use another kind of tool. Maybe a lot of people, if you want to create and get involved into artificial intelligence, you need to create maybe something in Python. There is no problem about it, but talking about the quality. What is the quality about it? you know so what is a prompt? When we're talking about artificial intelligence, we're talking about maybe we need to get some text to get some result about graphics. And right now we are talking about graphic because if we are talking about everything about artificial intelligence, we can talk about every time hours about that. So right now we are talking about only in graphics. Okay. So what is about prompts? Prompt is a text. What do you want to do about it? That. So maybe for new people, prompt is a new word about it. But right now, is some companies needs engineering prompts. So the word prompt is not a prompt. It's something really interesting that's going to growing up. So right now, understand that process is really interesting because it's really fast. Right now, it's really really fast. In Latin America, there is a singer, called. It's really interesting. Create some voices with artificial intelligence. And create some songs about that. You can create everything about it. And we got everything's wrong sometimes when we use another kind of tools and we access with some kind of text. We got some negative prompts. For example, in Leonardo I, you got prompts and you got some negative prompts. And we are talking about developers, about how kind is the developer for the tools. you know so it's really interesting that you know so I'm going to show you about my prompts with artificial intelligence. All this created with Leonardo AI. But it's really interesting. What can we do with this, and what can we do with open source software? We need to understand that very very clear. What is the license for this image? We need to understand that very clear about the licensing. If we want to create something interesting with open source software, we need to understand what kind of licenses we got with this image. So it's really interesting because we are not talking about with copyright software. You know. So this is really interesting. So when we want to create something really interesting, we are talking about lights, texture, everything that we can create, for example, with Blender. You know. So when we are talking about this artificial intelligence, this is really interesting. What can we do? What can we say about it? For example, I'm a safety guy. I'm working into a copper mine, and we are talking about this is really interesting. How can we create a safety protocol for the people? Really fast, really interesting about it. But we're talking about when we are talking about free Linux open source software, we're talking about net we're talking about license, really interesting license. you know but when you see the powerful what you can create with this tool, is blown in my case it's blown my mind. Because everything is talking about how can you can create with that, how create wallpapers, everything about how can you create a movie, how can you create everything about it, how can you create interesting about, because everything is new, everything is fast, everything is growing up very fast. So we're thinking about right now is growing I'm thinking about because I'm watching and I'm learning from Google. I'm learning artificial intelligence too, so I'm trying to get it involved, more getting involved. But there is a lot. It's fast. It's really fast right now. So right now, when the people start to computer as a visual designer, when we just start, for example, maybe some tools just adding some artificial intelligence. For example, Adobe. All the suites for Adobe getting some artificial intelligence. What about for open source software? Blenders too. You know. So this is really fast. How is this going to growing up? as a visual designer, we need to learn it too. We need to be step by step. We need to learn fast. So when we are talking about open source software, we're talking about to learn something interesting, you know. And this is when we are talking about licenses. When we're talking about some GPL licenses, we need to talking about to give the source, you know. But obviously, we got some artificial intelligence when we can get the source too. And this is what I'm talking about too. Obviously, get that. Get with our open source software tools like Blender, James, Carita, Inkscape, you know, and then collaborate and then add it to our GitLab. And why not? You know, obviously you can find obviously all my work into my Flickrs, you know. So obviously you can find all my works is going to be there to understand because there is a lot of work there. So sometimes there is a wrong step when you use another kind of tool, you see the kinds of the develops, you know. Right now when we are talking about into the kinds, how can we right now we are collaborating to the open source software into the genome engagement team. We are talking about Blender, Inkscape, Audacity, and GitLab. So when we're talking about when we start start to learn something interesting, something new about it, how can we get it involved about that? But as I said before, it's not getting involved into learning about that. How can get it involved into this feeling, into that, and this is more powerful about it because this is not going to stop about that, you know. It's going to be the future. We got some libraries right now. This is created from maybe we got from Blender Scalable vector graphics, so we can use this, you know. We can get the accessibility for this right now. When we're talking FCG, we can see it in a browser, you know. We can see the graphic right now into a browser, and I can save as SVG. What is the idea for this? The idea is principle, for example, is we want to create a big image. Not only, obviously, we can use this for create some icons and understand that, but obviously we want to create some big graphics. You know, we can use obviously SVG because it's scalable vector graphics. It's not a pixels, you know. So it's really interesting how can we learn about that. And this is what I'm talking about. How can we get artificial intelligence with SVG, you know? And we were talking about, as I said before, Blender. For me, it's a really interesting tool. Right now, I'm learning about so Blender nodes, so geometry nodes. It's really interesting. How can we create something interesting about that into the modeling? Design something, create something interesting. It's getting involved, as I said before, you know. And what does that mean? When you get before, you get involved some people who, for me, is a real example to know that. And this is, for example, for me, Jacob Steiners, obviously, is from Red Hat Linux, and he was talking about in Blender conference right now. So we're talking about how can we use Blender for UX? And my dream, obviously, as a Blender user, is talking about always with Jacob Steiner, how can we create wallpapers with geometry nodes? So it's getting involved, it's learning from the people, is never give up. You know. I'm studying Japanese too, and as the word says, Nanakoro Oki. As I said before, us if we fall 7 times, we need to stand up 8 times. No, we need to feel about that. So that's why, as I said, my first time, it's not about it. It's about what we feel about it. You know, if what we want to do about it. You know, so that's why interested what we want to do, where we are, and we were what am I supposed to do in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. Because we always going to learn something interesting, going to meet people, going to understand what is going on. You know, for example, I really feel disappointed right now because I would like to stay there. In a way, I cannot because I'm a safety guy. I working into a copper mine. It's really difficult to step outside my job. It's a legal process. So is this what? That's why I'm talking about it, what I'm feeling about to making a new job the next year. If because, as I said before, is what I'm feeling about it. And this is what I'm learning too. Never give up. And what are you feeling about it? It's really interesting for you. It's not only for you, it's for all the people who you know who understand what is that mean open source software. How can you get involved? How can you grow up? How can you understand? Learning always, always learning, learning, learning. Never give up, never give up about it. You know, so that's my proposal. Always talking with Jacob Stayer and understand I would like obviously stay one there and blend their confidence. Why not? It's understand it's my proposal. That's why I understand and learning. Never give up. It's going to be slow and obviously because we need to learn. It's difficult to understand with this proposal and as I said before in artificial intelligence because artificial is very fast. But what about the learning? What about to understand? What about if we got some problem? How can get the resolve? How get the propose to get it involved, to get it better, something interesting, created for two peoples. And right now, how many people we are? So this is step by steps, but make me feel very good about it and very happy because I'm talking to the people, and obviously I would love how many people for AG come onto engagement team and make a wonderful team. This is not only for us, it's for all the people around the world. This is talking about is something for here and for all the people, you know. And always, this is what I'm talking about. How good grades, SVG graphics, you know, when we craft that AI. It's really interesting. We can create a vector art, and this with vector art, we can import Treescape. We can import Twinkscape, and obviously we can modify it. So this is what we want to do, how we can use our prompts. And this is about always learning. Never stops, never stops. For example, I'm thinking about what was if I never learn English? Could be do this right now, talking to all the people about my experience. I guess it's not possible, but something we need to learn step by steps. And we got everything very happy about it, you know. So right now, this application, we can create vector arts, icon, 3D image, and illustrations, and make the range of style. Okay, so for the website, print and marketing. So I will recommend that website. We can download, we can create. But when I said we can create, we need to understand about the prompts. It's really interesting what we want to add, what we're looking for about it, you know. It's really interesting because we are talking about vector graphic. We can get a scalable, we can modify, we can do everything about it. It's not only an image. You know? We can only work with vectors. So right now, this is a really, really powerful tool. How are we going to do this for GNOME? You know, I'm talking about this is, as I said before, blowing my mind because we got many opportunities to create that. And instead, I'm working with t-shirts. But I was trying to do something really interesting. What can we do? You know. But when we saw this application blow my mind, how can we do a lot of beautiful t-shirts for all the people? You know, it's not only the standard, we can blow all the mind for all the people about it. Because it's talking about creativity, it's talking about marketing, it's talking about all the mind for all the people about that, and talking about with open source software. It's really powerful about it. How can we do to the people? How can grow up to the people? This is really interesting for all the people. But I'm never going to say that could be really interesting. What I'm talking about, you know, the experience, you know, but never give up about it. Always step by step. Where we are right now, and where we're supposed to be in 6 months, in 1 year. Not thinking about why I was supposed to be a super terminal about it, and I don't know. Let's thinking about the real stuff right now where we are. What is our reality? It's really interesting. What is our reality? How can we go? But always with stability that we want to use Linux as a default operating system. We need to understand that. Sometimes it could be hard, but when you got this interesting, when you got this result, it's something really beautiful because you can find everything about, you can modify everything about, you can learn. Never stopped about that, learning everything. Because it's really interesting when you get involved into the new world. You can find everything about. If you are a developer, obviously, you can find every kind of language. You can talk to the terminal too, you know. You can find everything. So you can teach to the people too. Learn too, step by step, and then you can teach to the people. And obviously, people going to get in love because you are not talking about like a machine. You're talking about something really interesting who love this operating system, but about the operating system, about talking about the community. No, we're talking about the community where we are, how we can get involved, how we can feeling very close. But in my case, I feel it. Right now, I'm feeling very close, but right now, I'm feeling very fast because I really need to stay with the community in person. But this is some kind that I need to fix. And obviously, the next year, I'm going to stay there, because I need to think about what we need to do. What's my proposal? What am I studying? So I'm studying understand, but why? Because I need to create something really interesting for my future. You know? So right now we are talking about if we go to getting involved into the GNOME engagement team, we got some kind of steps. We got some guidelines. We need to understand if we want to create some icons, if we're going to create some into the genomes for gitlab.genome.org, into the genome, some projects. We need to understand. We need to understand what is the process, what about, how many tools we are at GAT6, for example, for FlatHub, how many access we can get, we can install, we can understand. And obviously, as I said before, we're never going to stop to learn because this is something really fast. And something fast for me, it's really interesting when I talk. For example, I talk to the people from Inkscape too. I talk to the people from Blender too. So really interesting. Talk to the people of the applications. So what is going on? What is the future? What's going on? Because it's your application you use and you teach to the people understand. You know, so it's really interesting if we want to get involved into the great community. You know, so we're talking about right now. We got into engagement and talking about social media teams. Okay, we got another teams, but for my experience, I'm going to talk about social media teams. We got in the graphic design, we got a Caroline Heriskens, who is our leader in our team. For example, right now for Latam, I got the social media and the email, latam@genome.org, and we got for Twitter and for and Float.social. So it's just really interesting how you get involved and you got this interesting thing about to communicate to the people what is going on the next year. We got this year, Genome Latam 2023, and we got the next years too. So it's really interesting. What are we going to do to the people? As I said before, it's part of the language. What we're going to do. If we right now are practicing other kind of Asian languages, it's really to talk to the people about that. Right now I'm communicating in many kinds of language. Right now I use Line. I use many people in Latin America are using TikTok. I use Douyin. Use many kinds of language because I need to practice language too. So right now this is tricky because when we got right now the marketing, for example, for social media and Twitter and Flow.social, we need to understand we need a head image, so we need to create that right now. We need to standard text what is going on with the page. For example, I understand really understand how it's force cost understand to create an event, you know, because you need to create everything about it. You need to work with a lot of people about how many people is going to be in the talks. Let's make a good selection about it. Let's talking about the city. Let's talking about everything about it. Let's talking about the passport. Let's talking about everything about that. You know, something interesting as as a visual designer. We need to create. I need to create everything that to work, because when I see some example, for example, some WADEC, some Genome Asia, some Genome Africa, we understand with Genome Brazil too. We understand what is the idea for that. And we need to understand that. We need to be in the category, in the guidelines. You know what I'm talking about right now? So we need to understand that we want to be a step, and we obviously the first time we use XChats or IRC. So we talk to the people about how can we go growing up when we start to art.genome.org. How can we growing up with wallpapers, with genome desktop graphics, genome desktop managers too. So everything about into the visual designer, into icons. So when we start some presentation about, we want some wallpaper for Genome, wallpaper for Ubuntu, wallpaper for Debian. So with that is our for how long time is going to talk to learn, you know. So it's really interesting to talk to the people in another kind of language that we are in the same world. You know, we are talking about free open source software community. It is really interesting about, you know. So it's really powerful when we see a lot of people and we see the powerful, and we see this growing up. It's not going to step. Nobody say that, because a lot of people getting a lot of for that. When say a conservancy community is really interested about the law, they interested in the licenses, you know, because it's really maybe sometimes we're talking about license and everything about that, but into the law, there's another steps, you know. As a visual, I'm talking about as a visual designer, but we're talking about as a safety guy working into a Cooper mine. I understand all the legal process about that, you know, because if we need, if we have an incident or an accident, could be lethal, could be people could be dead. It's a very high risk, you know. So that's why for me it's not easy to leave my job and to go to the Genome conference, that I really feel like to go there. So right now, this is why I'm talking is studying, because you're going to growing up. What do you want to do? What do you feel about it? You So I always say that in all my conference and all my events, I'm talking to the people and say, you need to learn, you need to learn, you need to study, because you're growing up your mind's starting to growing up, boom, starting to learning about it. you know Start to create some application developers. Obviously we got many tools, we got interesting about, you can learn about, you can talk to the people about, you can write what is your steps, your next steps, you know and how can difficult could be that, and how could you fix it. So we are talking about experience, and right now feeling motivated that because I hope next year I would like to have from people from Asia collaborating with genome engagement team, and attendance is a really good process about it. You know, it's not really fast as I said before. We need to understand, learning, be part of this. You know, but when you're talking about this, is start the communities really in a so this is for me to really understand the way when we're talking about a GPL license or a create commune licenses, because we got the source, and obviously if we got the source, we need to understand how it's going to create that, how powerful could be that, you know. So we're talking about many kinds, some kinds of legal problems could be that if we don't use open source software tools, and we are talking about a community with open source software community. You know. So when we are talking about licensing, we, as I said before, we got the conservancy members that we got understand all about the law. You know, this is for me. It's a really interesting. It's a really we need to understand that too, because this is how we work. This is our interest and support for all open source software community tools. We know going to stops, because as I said before, this is something really interesting that we really love it, you know because we got step by step, if we're falling down, As I said before, we falling down 7 times, and we must to stand up 8 times. We're not going to step falling down because it's not only here, as I said before, it's only here. It's what we like it. It's talking about it. And the technology right now is boom really fast. It's growing out everything. It's fast. Right now, it's totally fast. And it's going to be like this. China, for example, got the most fast computing in all the world. You understand the powerful of that. So we need to understand where we are and where we want to be, but never things never left to the people. We always need to learn. We always need to support. Give the support to the people. Give the support because we passed bad. Obviously, we was learning. Right now, we got the accessibility. Everything about internet, we can find everything by YouTube for any kind of website to learn something interesting. But as I said before, in 2005, it was very no many kind of browsers. You go into a YouTube and there was no many tutorials about that. Everything right now, boom, the streaming is really fast. You, for example, go to Twitch, go to this developer, designer, many kinds of people, thousands of people. As I said, Bilibili.com, rented for Chinese, is rented how many people are getting involved into open source software too. In Line too. I use Line. I got my account with Line when we chat. And obviously, when we're talking about when we chat, obviously we go to the open source software community, links, Debian, everything about that, and everything. How many people are getting involved that? So it's not only you; it's all the world. So this is the powerful about that. It's really interesting for me. I feel really passionate about that because I know that step by step could be really hard, but when you get fixed that step by step, you're going to feel very good about it, and you're going to teach it to the people, and you're going to say, oh, what is my next steps, what is my next steps, always getting steps about your mind is always going to be moving, thinking about what can we do, how can we be feeling better about it, how can we get involved into our community, maybe new, maybe a lot of people are going to talk it to me, this is wrong, this is guy is going to make it, it's not going to take for a long time. No, we need to always talk, always, as I said before, we falling down, we need to grow up, we need to stand up, maybe always that, you know. So this is how can we create, how can we get involved into this great community. And how can we get involved or request help for engagement team? So we got many kinds of team. Then the insights, obviously, it's all under GitLab. For example, when we will start to collaborate with Arta, all the wallpapers was under email. Then we got wiki for HackerGotchi, creating the wiki. But right now, under for GitLab, everything is very good because everything is under control. We got leaders, so everything is very fast. So it's obviously we need to understand GitLab too. So this is really cool because always there are many kind of tools we need to learn about it, and it's really fast because we're feeling growing up. This is really interesting. We're growing up, and we need to teach to the people. Never thinking about that. Never think, no, I don't know, I don't care. Read it. So I'm talking about that because we got some partner, we got some people. I'm talking about that because I was teaching, and I would like to teach the next year. I would like to teach Linux too. So I understand that could be really hard for new people, but we need to help to all the people. Never give up to the people. Never give up. Yeah. So then in this case, we got for engagement in, we got event sponsorship requests, social media news, engagement assets, and general. So we can find in everything else. How can we learn? How can we teach? How can we obviously give some support to this great community? Obviously, and we're going to talking about not the community. We're going to talking about giving some support to GNOME desktop and obviously to GNOME operating system. So we're thinking about that. We're thinking about that. But for me right now, the community is really wonderful. Really passionate about that. I really feel it. That's why right now I'm really kind of sad because I would like to be there. Obviously, give a hand, give me five, you know that. But I'm thinking about that. It's going to be a step by steps. For example, for Chile, I all know Chile for because we got all the years we got Dia Genome in Spanish, Day. Dia Genome was every day we got a Linux meeting all the years, and we got Linux meeting. We got one day for the Dia Genome, talking about all the genome days. Getting involved for the genome people from Mexico, from Peru, from Europe, from many kind of places. So we're talking about a very great community. How many people are getting? This is really interesting when we're talking about community because I was learning about in the social media. There was no kind of social media because it started growing up, but right now we are full. But when we got the Linux meeting, you in there, you're talking with the Linux people. In this case, we got the Genome Day. So for me, it was wow. I'm collaborating with Genome Art. So what is going on with these people? Wow, give me fun. So we start collaborating, and right now I got the social media for Genome. In this case, for the Genome or for Genome Day. And obviously, I got the website. The website is under GitLab too, so I need to interest in that. I need to modify the website, but it is everything under GitLab. So wow, I said, wow, this is blowing. As I said before, this is blowing my mind, and I always say that because I need to always learn in something interesting. So right now, I would like to say there are many things that we are talking about what we want to do. We start in the Linux meetings. I was with the colleagues. I'm from Calama, Chile, and with colleagues is Calama Linux. When we start with 3 people, and we start to Linux in 2005. The first Linux meeting in Calama. How can people get involved from Microsoft into the Linux world? So there was a first bit of step by steps in 2005. So understand it's a lot of time, but we need to understand what we want to do be there. I was in this event. I was communicating with the people from the INACAP. It's an institute. He says if I can teach Linux to the people. The first time when we was Linux in this institute. So for me, it was really interesting, and obviously never going to say thank yous for open source software because it gave me a lot of opportunities to study. Always never give up, always learning, studying, never thinking about that, studying through growing up, never think about growing up our minds, and to wonderful with this great community and talking about because we got wonderful people around here, very wonderful people. And obviously, I'm never going to say that I would like to give up and give me five for all the great people, because I would like to thank for all the people who give the events for all kind of world. As I said before, it's not only Asia. I'm talking about WADEC, Africa, Latam, Brazil. In this case, many kind of people. And this is a great opportunity to talking about that. So the real experience, and I'm feeling more motivated right now. What is going on right now with artificial intelligence? Just really fast. We need to looking for, as I said before, really good instructions about that to create very good prompts, and thinking about how can we're going to growing up about it. Um, this talks is going to be in my wiki. So I'm going to talk about that. You can find me in DNL Galleguillos, Aurora Flows that social. So I'm going to upload after finishing this presentation. I'm going to upload that. But thinking about when we are right now and what is our proposal to be in maybe in 2 months, 5 months, 6 months, 1 year, but always thinking about step by step. And I was feeling happy about that. I really feel so happy talking about Linux. And always, if I'm thinking about to teach to the people, obviously I'm going to say always yes, because it's something really feel about it. It's something really happy. I'm talking about Linux and open source software community, and how can we grow it up, and how can we give a little part, but for a big community, for a big great community, and fighting everything obviously for the legal steps. So that's why. So I say thank you very much for Asia for all understand that all the process and for giving me the opportunity to stay here to talking to the people about my experience, and obviously always get involved to all the people how we can get involved and how can we can collaborate and feeling good about it, because it's really thinking about that. And how can you feel about it? Did you feel really good, as I said, as I'm feeling right now? Come on, welcome. Everybody's welcome. Everybody's welcome. We have obviously open hands, and asking me everything about that. That's why I got social media. You can find me obviously in Elements and Engagement and Genome Engagement as a Daniel too. So you can go find talking to all the people. Always you're going to find an answers, you know. But this is why we know to go to step by step. So I would like to God have more people in this great community as a general engagement team. So, as I said before, I guess I'm totally ready for right now. So thank you very much for all the people. So I'm going to make sure that the next year I'm going to give five for all the people there. I'm not talking about online. I'm very tired talking about online. I need to give hands for all the people. Okay. So thank you very much. Okay. So that's it. So if any question about it? Okay. So there is a question. I cannot
Okay.
hear you very clear.
All right. Yeah. Now.
Short. It's not fluent.
Okay. Can you hear? Yeah. No, probably the internet. Okay. So just to conclude your talk here, to talk your talk right now. Yeah. Thanks for your session that you gave us. I mean, it's already been 3 years. You haven't come to the event yet. So yeah, I guess there's no question from our attendees right now because most of them already moved to the main talk. So, but I'm really appreciate that you are talking in this year again. It's already been 3 years. Now, probably I'm hoping to see you physically because I am physical here.
I'm going to be there. It's a promise. It's a promise about
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So I'm not I'm not because the speaker. Uh, thank you for your talk, and hopefully we see you next year.
Yeah. There is a promise. I hope you to see all the people in the next year. So thank you very much for all the people.
So I guess yeah, I guess from our side. Thank you again, Daniel, next year, and thank you all for
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. See you.